Expected points, clean sheet odds, and who is the best captain. This video has got all of the information you need to know ahead of Game Week 15. Alright then, so the way that we usually play these Ultimate Guide videos is we go position by position and look at the top players for expected points. Now I tend to look at a 1 game week view, a 5 game week view, and then I tend to chuck in some cheaper players as well, because usually, the top players for predicted points are the more expensive ones, but you can't just fill your team with expensive players. So we'll try and cover all bases there, and all of the expected points data you're going to see in this video, unless I say otherwise, comes from Fantasy Football Hub. And if you want to check this data out for yourself, it's got expected points data all the way until the end of the season based on their model. You can do that using a link in the description below. So then we got goalkeepers first, and we got Donnarumma as the top keeper. Sunderland at home fixture for Man City. It's obviously a decent fixture, but all roads lead to me not trusting the Man City defence, I'm afraid. I think, they've conceded 2 goals to Leeds. A ridiculous game last night against Fulham. I'm recording this, by the way, on Wednesday morning. A ridiculous game against Fulham where they conceded 4 goals. Not sure I trust the Man City. Donnarumma, he was... For me, there's two goalkeepers who stand like on top in the world at the moment. One of them is Thibaut Courtois, the other one's Donnarumma. He's not quite hit the heights that he did at PSG. He's made some wonderful saves for Man City, but in other games, he's not looked amazing. We've got Alisson second, Leeds away for Liverpool, decent fixture. Pickford, Vicario and Verbruggen are your other keepers. I just wanted to talk in a bit more detail about goalkeepers, because I think this is something that's going through my head at the moment. Now, don't get me wrong, I am not saying that David Raya is a bad pick in FPL or anything of the sort, but I'm left thinking, especially with the way that transfers are working in Game Week 15, we get our 5 free AFCON transfers in 16, so the transfer you get for 15 is kind of it's almost a throwaway transfer, and I hate using transfers on goalkeepers, but I think the Game Week 15 transfer you get is kind of a unique one, and you might be able to do that. I think David Raya, he's 32% owned in the game at the moment. He's the most popular goalkeeper pick, but he's 5.9 million, and yes, I think the Arsenal defence is the best defence in the league, but there are some other goalkeepers that are competing with them. Some of them beating him in terms of actual points scored. Like I think Nick Pope did. Verbruggen's points for Brighton recently have been really, really good. And I think Sanchez from Chelsea has looked pretty good as well. I just think Chelsea overall have looked really good. And in Sanchez, you've got a goalkeeper who is a whole million less than David Raya. So we've got Alisson, Raya, Donnarumma, Pickford, Sanchez as the top keepers over the next 5. I would also chuck in maybe a Verbruggen as well and a Sells from Nottingham Forest. I do think he could come back into his own at some point I think under Dyche, they probably are getting a little bit better at Forest, aren't they? Albeit they didn't have a great result against Brighton. But yeah, that would be my thoughts on goalkeepers. Moving on then to defenders. So this is the top defenders for predicted points for Game Week 15 in isolation. We've got Malik Chow as the top defender. Burnley at home for Newcastle. It's obviously a good fixture, that, isn't it? We've got Nunes and O'Reilly from Man City playing Sunderland. Guardiola's up there as well. Obviously, the Sunderland fixture, because they're not playing at the Stadium of Light, is a good one. Had it been the other way around, I would have probably not backed a Man City clean sheet here, but I just don't trust the defence. They just ship too many goals for me. Yes, they might be up there for projected points, but for me, I'm not massively trusting of them, and particularly with the way the fixtures lie. Champions League next week, I think they got Madrid in the Champions League, if I'm not mistaken. Could there be some rotation in that Sunderland game? Potentially. So, but the key name that's jumping out to me is Malik Chow there, of course. And then I've done a filter of defenders under 5 million and below, because I think it's useful, obviously, to look at the top defenders across all price points, but you can't just buy all of the premium defenders in the game, so it's worth looking at some of the cheaper ones as well. Malik Chow's there. Romero after his brace against Newcastle. They've got Brentford at home. It's a decent fixture, and obviously Romero offers probably the most goal threat of the Spurs defenders. Joachim Andersen, he's an interesting option. I think week on week he's always there or thereabouts for predicted points, and that's purely down to the defensive contributions that he gets in a game. Livramento and Van Heck are your other top cheap defenders. That leads me on to cheap defenders for the next 5 weeks. So I think, previously I've just showed defenders for the next 5, but I think I've had a couple of requests. I think it's sensible to show those cheaper defenders. So Malik Chow is number 1. I suggest if you've still got someone like Senesi in your team, He's probably the best replacement. Romero from Spurs is second. I've got to be honest, though. I know they did okay against Newcastle. Romero did okay against Newcastle, but Spurs just don't look at it really this season in terms of particularly their defence. I think they conceded way too many goals. Yeah, Romero might be good from an attacking returns point of view, and he's probably the leading Spurs defender for DEFCON as well, but I don't think I'd pick him. Joachim Andersen, I think he's just going to prove to be really good value at 4.5 million consistently. Collins from Brentford, similar, I guess, to Anderson in terms of DEFCON, and he seems to be a real target from Brentford from like long throws and corners, but 4.9 million is quite a lot of money for a Brentford defender. And then Senesi is there as well. But Bournemouth, they are a defence that I really don't trust at the moment. So Fulham, to be fair, their expected goals conceded numbers are okay at Fulham, but they just don't really, have like the needle to keep clean sheets, if that's a correct word to say. Couple of names one name that isn't in here is Chris Richards from Palace. I do think with Palace defenders, I wouldn't say the wheels are completely coming off, but they're looking leggy and they're looking tired, and they don't really have all that many replacements across the back line that sort of are anywhere near Richards, Lacroix and Gahey. They've got the one guy that comes in, probably starts instead of Chris Richards or gets some minutes for Richards in game week 14. But yeah, I think we're starting to see maybe a drop-off in Palace. Here we've got top defenders regardless of price. Providing he starts, they've got O'Reilly as the number one. Again, I just go back to, I don't massively trust the Man City defence, but of the Man City defenders, he's the best. And I think the attacking numbers that he's put up this season warrant, some view. He is looking ridiculously attacking, to be fair. Konate from Liverpool is actually ahead of Virgil van Dijk, which is interesting. Timber is up there as well, and then we got Nunes. So it's a mix really then of, I guess, Man City, Liverpool and Arsenal defenders in terms of the top ones for the next 5. So before we move on to midfielders, I just wanted to quickly mention the FPL Cartel, little joint project I'm doing with fellow YouTuber FPL Tom. It's an exclusive Discord with lots of different chat rooms and stuff about FPL, and the two of us are in there all the time to help you with your FPL teams and dilemmas. We're also releasing an exclusive weekly podcast only available to FPL Cartel members. So if you like both me and FPL Tom, want to see us do a weekly podcast, chat to us regularly in a Discord, get advice on your team, whatever, consider using or signing up to the FPL Cartel. There's a link in the description. We get you 30 days as a free trial when you sign up. So yeah, you can see what you're doing before you fully commit. Okay. Midfielders then, and we've had a sea change, if that's the correct word. We've had a change in terms of how the expected points are lining up for midfielders. I think pretty much every week I've made an ultimate guide video, Salah has been the number one midfielder for predicted points. But this week, that's not the case. It's Phil Foden. Obviously, 4 goals in 2 games. No surprise to see him mentioned here. The thing with Phil Foden is his current form is so good that I would almost push aside the risk of minutes. The real things that were sort of putting me off Phil Foden previously, I was a big sort of I wouldn't say hater, but I was kind of against most people bringing him into their teams, to be honest, because we didn't know his minutes were like 100% secure. And also, I didn't think his numbers, apart from in the last game, were actually all that good. Outside of the Leeds and Fulham game, he'd only scored 1 Premier League goal, but that's changed. And Man City are looking pretty good going forwards, and Phil Foden's looking decent. Good fixture against Sunderland at home. It wouldn't surprise me if Phil Foden was the most popular transfer ahead of game week 15. Saka is second. He is just a player that I really like Saka because he can score points through multiple means. Goals, assists, although they've not been huge in numbers this season. He's proven he can get DEFCON, and I think he's still the first choice Arsenal penalty taker. Bruno Fernandes, he obviously looks really good. Same sort of boxes ticked as Saka, really, and probably even safer for minutes, I would say. And Mbumo is last week before he's off to AFCON. You're probably not buying him, but at the same time, you're probably, well, to be honest, you could do a lot worse than a 1-week punt on Mbumo against Wolves away, right? And then Ahmad's up there as well. Interesting, because we move on to the cheap midfielders, and he obviously takes the lead of cheap midfielders in the game. We'll see what happens in game week 14, I guess, but I'm just not massive on Ahmad. He's playing at wing back. I don't think, just not massive on him. Maybe when Mbumo goes off to AFCON, maybe that means that Ahmad should change positions. Harvey Barnes, he's getting decent minutes for Newcastle. They're obviously playing Burnley. That is a good fixture. And Jai, Szoboszlai and Kudus. I guess, I'm trying to add some points other than just talking about the numbers on the screen. I guess when we talked about, the 1 free transfer you get in 15 being a bit of a throwaway, it's an opportunity, isn't it, to sort of take a 1-week punt? So maybe one of these players you've seen in the midfield could be one of those 1 week punts, like the likes of, wow, Harvey Barnes in particular, 2.2% owned playing Burnley at home. He could be a decent 1 week punt. Cheap midfielders then for the next 5 weeks. We got Szoboszlai top. The thing that would put me off Szoboszlai is the fact he's on 4 yellow cards. He might even get that fifth yellow in game week 14 and it's wrapped up before we even get to the deadline. But yeah, he's on 4 yellow cards. Trossard, Enzo Fernandez, who I worry a little bit about with Palmer returning. Elliot Anderson is just looking really good value at 5.4 million. I think at some point, close point in time, he'll be ending up in my team. And then Harvey Barnes is up there as well. Overall midfielders for the next 5 weeks, well, Saka is number 1. I think Arsenal got a few good fixtures mixed in with, well, Villa and Everton's not too bad a fixture, is it? But the Arsenal fixtures get quite good, to be honest. Foden is up there, no surprise. Bruno Fernandes, Declan Rice, and Semenyo is still there or thereabouts. He's an interesting one because obviously his form in recent games has not been great, but at the same time, he's not been completely devoid of chances. In game week 13, he had one that Evan Nilsson cleared off the line. Well, I didn't clear it off the line. He tapped it in off the line, and he was offside, so he cancelled out a Semenyo assist. I believe he also had a chance against Everton as well, so he's not been like completely dead in games, but the fixtures are quite tough for Semenyo. So maybe, speaking about 1 week punts, I think there's a few options if you want to get rid of Semenyo. Forwards, I don't think anyone's surprised to see Haaland number 1. The question with Haaland, this is another one of 3 weeks before the chips reset that you could triple captain him. Sunderland at home, he's got a really good expected points total here, 9.2. Personally, I still think the game week 17 fixture against West Ham at home is better, and he should be more rested for that game as well. Mateta in second, Fulham away. Overarching point about Palace, about them looking a bit leggy, I think also stands with Mateta, but he is helped by the fact that Ismail Assar is obviously injured, so that probably means good things for Mateta's minutes. Voltemada, with Wissa still being out for Newcastle, he's probably going to be starting for them. I think the fixture against Burnley is really good. Raul Jimenez and Thiago as well. That moves us on to cheap forwards. Interesting that Thiago isn't the top. It's actually got Raul Jimenez here. And to be honest, I can't say I disagree. Fulham have looked really, against Man City, I was really impressed with the way that Fulham played. Igor Thiago of Brentford has obviously been a bit of a penalty merchant this season, but he has scored some goals from open play. But just the way that Brentford win penalties and how many they get is actually, I'm convinced that they are a team that just know what they're doing when it comes to winning penalties. Welbeck, Xerxes and Strand Larsen are your other top cheap forwards. For the next 5 weeks, it looks like this for cheap forwards. Thiago is number 1. I don't think that's a surprise to anyone. Raul Jimenez second. Welbeck third. We got Fleming from Burnley, who has been quietly knocking in a few goals, although I don't think I can bring myself to pick the Burnley striker. Then we got Strand Larsen up there as well. In terms of overall forwards, the 3 are Haaland, Mateta and Thiago. I think, to be honest, if I was to pick an ideal FPL team at the moment, it probably involves 2 up front, Haaland and Thiago, maybe 5 in midfield with the introduction of one player we haven't mentioned at all from the Fantasy Football Hub predicted points, just with his minutes, is Palmer. I think he could be an option in the game going forwards, and maybe a lot of managers, the 31.1% that own Mateta, some of them might be thinking of ways to get Cole Palmer in, and I think maybe sacrificing Mateta in order to do that is the way to go. Okay, so we've got here some data from Solio to round off the video. Firstly, clean sheet odds. I mean, there's no surprise to see Arsenal as the top team for clean sheet odds over the next 5. Man City in 15 obviously have a good fixture against Sunderland. 17 they play West Ham. Good fixtures for Man City, but they are just shipping too many goals for my liking. Liverpool, I think they're at a sort of teetering point at Liverpool as to whether they're actually going to improve or they're going to continue to on a downwards trend and Slot's going to go. They obviously had their result against West Ham, but it's not exactly, that was an expected win, right? I think we need to see maybe 1 or 2 more games from Liverpool, see how they play to see if we could back their defence again. Newcastle, I think at home, I always say this, can keep a clean sheet against anyone except for last night against Spurs, but I think they can. Chow is really up there for predicted points as we saw. Crystal Palace, I think they are looking a bit leggy. And then we move on to Chelsea, who, their fixtures are not amazing, but they are like the second best team in the league at the moment, aren't they? And I think could be quite good defensive options going forwards. And then we got the bottom fodder teams. I don't think it's a real surprise really to see Wolves, West Ham, Sunderland, Burnley and Leeds down there. The only thing I would say about these teams is Sunderland at home, I wouldn't back against them against anyone at home, but away from home, I think, their odds should be pretty poor. And then the the worst of the rest, in terms of those really low-level teams, is Tottenham at the moment, which is quite funny to see, and also probably suggests that they're a team to target, alongside Villa by the looks of it as well, which is quite interesting. And finally then, we've got a view of Solio predicted points for the next 5 weeks. Haaland is the top player for Game Week 15. I don't really think there's a question of captaincy for Game Week 15. 16, there is a question according to Solio. Saka actually has higher predicted points than Haaland. And then we get on to 17 when he plays West Ham. That's just the best predicted points figure I've seen all season. I've already used my triple captain on Haaland. I used it in 13 on Leeds, to much regret. And I'm absolutely terrified of what we could do there. What he could do there. There are a couple of other players that I wanted to mention as well. 2 players that should, at least for Game Week 15 particularly, should return from injury and get good minutes. That being, one being Cunha and one being Cole Palmer. Cunha is the 4th top player for predicted points and Palmer is 5th. I think both of these players coming back for their respective clubs, they're obviously going to get good minutes and I think they're going to perform pretty well. Cunha's got a really good set of fixtures for Man United. I think his role, probably going to play the 9 or certainly fill in the hole that Mbeumo did in terms of goal scoring for Man United. And Palmer, I mean, we all know what Cole Palmer can do for Chelsea. I think both of these players coming back are pickable and hopefully make the game a little bit more interesting, because I feel like we've spoken about predicted points here. There's a few players that sort of on the fringe of a lot of teams, but in reality the pool of players you can pick in FPL at the moment is relatively small, and the introduction of Cunha and Palmer hopefully makes things a bit more interesting. Alright, well that is the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed it and found it useful. If you did, please leave me a like rating. Let me know in the comments what your plans are for Game Week 15. I'll have this video out before the Wednesday fixtures, so some of what I say might be overwritten by those fixtures, but I think I've kind of caveated stuff correctly here. And on the most part, I think these players survive, and I think whether they're minutes risks or not, it sort of applies regardless of whether they play in Game Week 14 or not. So yeah, hope you enjoyed it. Leave a like rating if you did, and if you haven't already, please do subscribe to the Golden Goal channel. It should be just there on your screen. And yeah, that just leaves me to say thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.